I am Mona Scott Figueroa. I am a professor at Mesa Community College in Sociology and American Indian Studies, and I love my students and the work that I do.
I am Yanitza Nicole Soto. I'm a Mexican-American first-generation daughter, sister, aunt, and friend.
My name is Eloise Nathaniel, and I am a child of God. I was made and created by Him just like you.
I am Dulce Maria Ruelas. I'm a mother. I'm an immigrant. I'm Mexican.
Everyone, and welcome to Uncomfortable Conversations That Ignite Change. My name is Joanna Deshay, and I have the great pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of Diversity Leadership Alliance. Happy Women's History Month to all of you. We received such amazing reviews from our dialogue series from 2020. So in 2021, the dialogues continue. Now, we have an amazing panel lined up for you, and you're not going to want to miss the amazing information, the little gems and nuggets that you're going to be able to walk away with as these ladies share their story. Before we begin the formal portion of today's panel, I do want to kick off today's Women's History Month with a very special treat, an amazing lyrical serenade honoring our women. This piece is written and performed by spoken word artist and poet Lady Caress. So if you would allow me just a little minute, good morning to you. I'd love to tell you a little bit about her and her background. For 10 years, nationally recognized performance artist Lady Caress has dedicated her life to the art of communication as both a poet and a public speaker. With a Master of Fine Arts in Performance from ASU, go Sun Devils, she combines a unique set of comedy, music, beatboxing, and theatrics. This dynamic performer crafts her message of empowerment, awareness through compelling live performance video. Performing an original piece entitled WOMEN, DLA, a warm welcome to Lady Caress.
Women, WOMEN. Y'all, that is 5 letters to describe she, her, you, us, warriors, orators, masters of our craft, engineers of the future. Hell, we are nobodies. Push over. I am woman. Hear me roar. Watch me soar above heights people never thought I could reach. Oh, but there is no ceiling or peak when you are fierce, fiery, and chic. Ladies, speak your truth and let your actions be proof, girl, that you are a woman. All that is gorgeous and graceful, girl, you got guts. So go on, show them what you're working with. And by that, ladies, I mean work. Slay your to-do list with sass. May your emails be filled with personality and pizzazz. And may that annoying person who sits next to you be overwhelmed by the passion you have for what you do. Girl, you are more than employee ID 134676, so don't you dare settle for it. See, every thread in the fabric of your life is a square in the quilt of society. So don't you dare wither under pressure. Honey, may your fibers be stronger than ever. Give them nothing but net ladies and net work because you have worth. And it's not determined by any percentage or price tag. Girl, we are brown paper and Gucci bag. We are beauty shop jewelry, honey. We are Tiffany green. We don't just envision a product, honey. We go build the machine. We are queens. Infiltrating companies with confidence, and our abstract ideas are coupled with common sense. Ladies, don't you dare lay back. Level up. We are tough by ourselves, but together we cannot be touched. So whenever one woman gets weak and you hear her trumpet sound, ladies, let's gather around her and help her adjust her crown.
Woo! Right? Yes. Okay.
Wow.
What I am talking about. Girl, you got me over here on fire. Yes. Now that's how you know what? Can you kick off all my mornings? I'm just gonna call you. Okay. I'm just gonna call you. You're just gonna do that for me so I can get hyped up to do what I need to do. Lady Caress, that was absolutely amazing. And that is the power of voice, that is the power of words, and that is the power of your art. Thank you for invigorating us this morning. I am honored to have you kick off our program. To learn more about Lady Caress and get information on how to book her, yes, book her, because I know you all have some events coming up, please contact her at www.ladycaress.com. Brent will drop that information in the chat for us. Thank you so much. Wow. Now, if you're not on fire, listen, that's how you should start the morning. And we have so many other wonderful women that will be adding to the voice that you heard this morning that will continue to inspire you. Our 2021 DLA dialogues were designed to create spaces where all could listen and learn and have conversations that meant something. Our desire is for people to walk away feeling like they have some additional tools that they can use to begin to ask important questions. Questions that will really dig deep and get to the root of the insidious nature of racism and a lot of the inequity that exists across various systems. Now, I will say this, my heart has been hurting in the last couple of weeks because unfortunately, 2021 has shown us a little bit more ugly. I just want to mention that the tragedy and pain from the brutal attacks of all of the Asian American community members in San Francisco and other places in the nation, and the recent killings of the 8 people in Atlanta, 6 of whom were Asian women, is unacceptable. It's deplorable. And we will not side by and watch more of our community members harmed. We have all got to bond together. When we stand in solidarity, firm for justice and equity for all, that's how we win. As the great Dr. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so our work continues. And we continue to impart knowledge and information so that you feel like you have more tools in your arsenal to be able to navigate and pivot and grow and learn. And today's webinar is the 3rd installment in our dialogue series, Uncomfortable Conversations That Ignite Change. Our theme this month, Crowning the Empowered Woman. We are looking at how can we reimagine global sisterhood. Today's webinar is an open and honest conversation with diverse female leaders from all walks of life and experiences. And hopefully this conversation will challenge you to recognize, examine, and start to dismantle all of the boxes that we put ourselves in and that we put others in. Our panelists are going to share their own experiences and really identify how can you shift, minimize all of the automatic tendencies that we sometimes have to judge, label, and stereotype, especially other women. Before we begin, I want to just remind everyone we are a community space. And as a community space, we have a few rules of engagement. So Dr. Scholar, if you would please read our rules of engagement so that everyone is familiar with our participation.
Good morning, everybody. I am multitasking here. All right. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning, everybody, panelists, and everyone we have. We do have a few rules of engagement. We would like you all to listen actively and be open to the full spectrum of perspectives. Commit to foster greater empathy. Try to relinquish the need to be right. Ask questions and seek clarification for understanding. Be respectful to the presenter and the other attendees. No one or two individuals should dominate a discussion, even in the chat area. Approach each other with kindness and love. As a community space, we do reserve the right to remove you from the discussion if you become disruptive, and ask questions of the presenter or moderator in the Q&A area only so that we can keep track of them. And I will post, these have been posted, and I will also post the Q&A reminder a few times throughout. So I will pass it back to Joanna.
Thank you so much, Dr. Scholar. Greatly appreciate the support. I would like to introduce you now to our esteemed panelists that will be joining us. First up on our panel is 12 News anchor and journalist, Tram Mai. Ms. Mai anchors and reports across all 12 news shows and platforms, and as a journalist, the most rewarding part of her job is making a difference in people's lives. Tram and her family fled on the last plane out of Saigon before communism took over, and she got to take her first steps at a refugee camp at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. Her family eventually made their way to Southern California, where she graduated from UCLA, majoring in communications with a minor in Asian American studies. From the hurricanes in Florida to the death of Senator John McCain and the historic Red for Ed teacher walkout in Arizona, Tram has covered some of the biggest news stories of our time. DLA, please help me welcome Tram Mai.
Oh, Joanna, thank you so much for this opportunity. It is truly an honor to be in such great, strong, beautiful company. Thank you so much.
We are so honored to have you. Thank you. Our next panelist, Monica Villalobos, is president and CEO of the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Villalobos was named president and CEO after serving as the vice president and foundation executive director for 7 years. Monica is also the operator of the Phoenix Minority Business Development Agency, the Business Center, the Native American Business and Economic Development Center, and Ascend Phoenix. Ms. Villalobos is the founding principal at Research by Design, a marketing research firm who specializes in qualitative and quantitative research. She is also editor-in-chief of 18, that's right, 18 research publications, including Datos, which is the state of Arizona's Hispanic market. Monica has won numerous awards, including being named 2020's most influential woman in Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Monica Villalobos.
Thank you so much, Joanna. It is my absolute pleasure to join you, our wonderful panelists, and of course, the audience that you have here today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Our next panelist, Dr. Velma Traham, is CEO and founder of ThinkZilla, a PR and consulting group. Dr. Traham is an award-winning entrepreneur, sought-after speaker, and economic empowerment specialist who believes that inclusive, equitable businesses and communities are what create opportunity and help drive prosperity. Through ThinkZilla Consulting Group, she builds, manages, and helps bring greater awareness to programs and initiatives that are vital to supporting underserved and underrepresented communities. Recently featured in the December 2020 edition of Forbes magazine, please welcome Dr. Velma Traham.
Thank you very much. I am honored, thrilled, and excited to be here today. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm just excited to be here. Thank you.
We're honored to have you. Thank you. Our last and final panelist is Miss Rose Liz Bacchus, and she is joining us. I have to tell you, okay, this is trooper. She's joining us from Hawaii. So right now it is 6:19 her time. So she's looking very bright-eyed, which I so appreciate. She is a federal government project engineer with integrated security technologies. Ms. Bacchus has worked for 11 years in the Department of Defense, spending 4 of those years in active duty in the United States Navy. Thank you so much for your service, and 7 years as a Department of Defense civilian contractor. She is a proud Phoenix and obtained her undergraduate degree in communications and graduate degree in business administration from the University of Phoenix. A project engineer managing federal government projects, she is also responsible for designing electronic security systems. All the way from Hawaii, please welcome Liz Bacchus.
Good morning and aloha, and thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to hear and listen and learn from everyone in this panel.
Wonderful. All right, so as attendees, you today get to experience and walk away with additional tools that will help you transform your own thoughts on discriminating gender practices, outmoded customs, and the stories we tell ourselves and that we tell others. This panel is going to challenge you to not just stand strong for the success, growth, and promotion of women, but they're going to make sure that you insist on it. All right, so with that, let us begin because we've got so much to talk about. I'm very excited. I, first of all, love all of you. So I just want you to know, and Tram, I just want to go on record as saying I am nervous. So that is just, you don't have a journalist and news anchor on and you're moderating. I mean, I used every trick I know. So, bear with me. I'm really excited to be able to guide this conversation. The first thing I want to ask all of you, and I would love for you all to address it, is I want to talk about this idea of leadership, leading, and I want to know what that really means to you, because I think we all have a different definition of leadership. So I would actually love to start with Tram, and then Dr. Trahan, and Monica, and then Liz. If you could all answer this specific question, what does leadership mean to you? So we'll start with Tram. Tram, unmute yourself.
Okay, I never said that I was great at technology, okay?
You are
I
fine.
apologize. Joanna, I feel like leadership, first and foremost, the thing that comes to my mind immediately is you lead by example. And that means you gotta work hard, no matter what. I saw that in my parents when they fled from Vietnam. My mom working 3 jobs, my dad working 2 jobs around the clock. And that's what they instilled in me, right? We all come here with the dream of the American dream and to be successful and to be better than what our parents gave us. So when you work hard, that has always been instilled in me at a very young age. Good things will happen. You have earned the right to be where you are at, and you can stand firm in the ground and say, I worked hard for this, I earned it, I deserved it. So, hard work, having that ethic, I think, especially nowadays, I mean, let's be honest, there's this generation of millennials who believe that they are entitled to a lot. And I think that sadly, that has been lost upon them. And, as an older parent, as a parent of twin 7-year-olds, we want that same kind of work ethic and that same upbringing that my husband and I grew up with. It's about respect. It's about respecting your peers. I also think being a good leader, you have to be open to change, right? Especially in the business that I'm in, change is constant. It is overflowing, and you have to be able to pivot and pivot quickly. And I always kind of hold myself to this standard that you're only as good as your last live hit. So whether that has been on the desk for me or in the field, I'm constantly challenged. Later on today, right after this discussion, I'll be heading out to Chase Field to do live hits for the 4 o'clock. And it's, nowadays I'm usually at the desk. So when I go live in the field, yes, I get those butterflies because I always want everything to be perfect. But, it's one of those things where you got to be ready to change. You got to be open to hearing from others, listening to your peers, being solution oriented. I think that's key. You know, a lot of people, they know how to complain, right? Because it's easy to complain, but let's find a solution for that. And let's listen to what other people bring to the table. And let's see, how can we fix this problem? So those are just, you know, some ideas that I think becoming a strong, open leader should be.
Oh, Tram, that's wonderful. And I completely agree. You know, I was born and raised in West Africa, and I had those hardworking parents, always had multiple jobs, multiple streams of income. And literally my children, you know, who are teenagers, very privileged, you know, are always like, why do you have so many jobs? And I'm like, really? You go to your room with all the electronics in it. You want to ask me that again in a different way as you jump on your, you know, very expensive computer and expensive phone? Ask me that again. And so that's one of the things where, but I was just brought up that way. You know, my parents were just like, you know what, if you want something, you have to work hard for it. And sometimes you have to have more than one jobs, right? And that's, it just is. And that's something I completely resonate with that. Dr. Trahan, would you please add to the conversation? What does leadership mean to you?
Yes, leadership for me, and by the way, Tram, that was absolutely amazing. The solutions oriented part, that was amazing. Leadership for me is the ability and capacity to influence others through inspiration, motivated by purpose. Leadership to me is also the art of being able to inspire people to act toward achieving a common goal. When I look at some of my leadership qualities and areas that I have been able to inspire and impact change upon others, I have 3 core qualities that I live by. That's number 1 is integrity. I believe that a good leader should have integrity, being able to adhere to moral and ethical principles and having moral character. Honesty, that falls, you know, under integrity, being honest. I believe that whatever type of leader you are, you're going to attract that type of audience, that type of individual. So integrity is very, very important. If you're dishonest, don't think you're going to attract honest people, because honest people are going to discern that, and they're not going to want to be a part of that. So the second quality is vision. I believe vision is very, very important. There is a famous scripture that reads, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." Good business leaders create a vision. They're able to articulate the vision, and they passionately own the vision and relentlessly drive it to completion. Vision is very, very important. Last but not least, wisdom is very important. A lot of people don't talk about this. Life on earth can be very challenging and complex. So I believe that complexity can be made simple, and wisdom is the application of these principles. Again, there is a famous scripture that reads, "Get wisdom in all of your getting and get understanding." Wisdom is very, very important. So those are the 3 qualities, the 3 core qualities that I've built my capacity of leadership on.
Monica, please.
Thank you so much, Joanna, again, for this opportunity. When I think about leadership, I think about service. Leaders are service oriented, and not just as a servant leader, but truly serving the community. It is a huge responsibility. And for those who choose to take it on, you know, it's not for those that are, you know, weak at heart or weak in the stomach. You have to have a very strong stomach for it, and a very strong and large capacity for failure as well, because failure is what paves the road to success, right? And so I always try to follow the 3 L's of leadership, as I call them. And the first one is listening. Actively listening, making sure that you are aware of your surroundings, that you are serving the people, you know, the people you're working with, they are your internal customers, and making sure that you're always listening. The second thing is learning, lifelong learning, making sure that you're always, you know, whether it's a skill set that you're upskilling, whether it's, you know, a philosophy, an approach, whether you're learning from the sisterhood. I'm learning today. This is part of active leadership, right? And so that learning is absolutely critical, and get to people's why. Why are they where they are? And why do they want to be there with you? And making sure that you're serving them in that way. And then the final thing is, you know, living and loving. You know, live out loud, as the Sharpie commercial campaign always says, being able to love what you do, build your purpose on love, and really live it. Live your purpose. A lot of people have a lot of jobs in their careers and in their lifetime, but you have one purpose. Make sure that you're always moving toward that one purpose. So that, in short, is leadership is to me. I think that sometimes there's the connotation of, you know, oh, leaders get all the glory. There's, you know, it's all, you know, butterflies and you know, hearts and angels, and unfortunately it's not. It's a lot more than that, and it's really rooted in service.
Excellent. So true. Liz, I would love for you to get in on this conversation here, and just really share, especially with your time served in the Navy. I would love to hear, when you think of leadership, what does that mean to you?
Leadership is, you know, the basic tenets of leadership is being influential enough to impact people to work towards a common goal. That's the simple way of saying it. But really, you have to be articulate, just like everybody else has mentioned. You have to have a great work ethic, because you have to lead by example. You have to be able to read your people well, so that you can know what their weaknesses and strengths are, so they can use them for whatever purpose that common goal is, right? Now, you yourself should be true to yourself. So you know, who am I? And all that stuff shines through to your the people that you're leading. If you're true to yourself, like what Dr. Tram said, if you have integrity, you will attract those people. And that alone is influence to those people. Oh, this person has integrity, this person has honor, and this person is truthful. I'm going to follow that person. So that is what leadership is, to be influential, impactful, and have the charisma, really, to read your people and work towards a common goal.
Wonderful. Now, since I've got you on, Liz, what would you say is your leadership style? How do you lead, and what's your leadership style?
My leadership style, I would say it changes depending on the people that I'm leading. It changes depending on the situations that I have to tackle. Just like what Ms. Monica was saying, you have to be adaptable, flexible. You have to come from a learning standpoint. So I get to know my people. I get to know the job, and then from there I adjust. So I'm very flexible. There's no one size fits all for any job, for any, you know, type of personality trait. You have to adjust, because otherwise it's not going to be successful. You're not going to finish your job on time. You're not going to finish your job on budget. So that's always my goal, is like, let me read the room, let me read the situation, and then I'll adjust. Wonderful. So that's my leadership style.
Excellent. And I just want all you all that are on right now, by the way, ladies, we've got almost 200 people joining us. There's a lot of folks on, so we're very excited about that. For all of you that are on, I want you to know that we're going to have an opportunity for you to actually get some information going here. We have a poll coming up, so I want to cue you up so you're ready, because we want you to participate in the poll and be able to answer the next question. But before we do that, I would love to hear from the remaining ladies on the panel. Do you have a specific leadership style? So Tram, what's your leadership style? Unmute yourself, Tram. I do it all the time.
I'm going to apologize in advance for the next 10 times that I don't unmute myself. So, you know, it's interesting because I don't consider myself, obviously, you know, I'm not a leader in terms of being a manager, right? I see myself as somebody who leads by example. So I've been in news now for over 25 years. I've been at Channel 12 for 18 years. And I conduct myself the way that, you know, kind of a leader in the newsroom should, by leading by example. So I do my homework on stories. If there's something that I am not familiar with or that I don't understand very well, I will look it up. I will do my homework before I ask somebody, just so that, you know, I want to appear confident and smart and well-knowledged about this particular subject. So, you know, I try to be respectful to my peers. It's about being, you know, hardworking. I want to be relatable to people. I'm in the business where, you know, people don't want to think of, you know, they don't want to watch you on TV and think, oh, you know, I couldn't talk to her, or I couldn't have a drink with her, or you know, I don't understand her. Yeah, I always want to be relatable, whether it's, you know, someone who is, whether they're working at the drive-through or whether they're the CEO of a big Fortune 500 company, right? It's finding that common ground where we can have a conversation and we can talk about things. And it's about, you know, knowing a little bit of everything, right? So, you know, in my business, that's my goal. And I hope that when, you know, other young journalists coming up, that's what I would share with them. You know, it's about doing your homework. It's about working hard. It's about relatable. And just, again, my profession being a little different is about being a great storyteller and having that ability to touch people with their hearts, and speaking from the heart. That is what means the most to me.
And Tram, I have to tell you, you are indeed a leader, because the biggest part about leadership is having influence. And I have to tell you, your influence is tremendous. All of my students at ASU, that as soon as they hear your name, they think she's a nice person. I always ask them, how do you know she's nice? Because her character comes through on the, and you know, teenagers in college are the most critical human beings you will ever meet.
Yeah.
I mean, they will tell it like it is, and they have this generation have no qualms about who you are. You know, they tell it like it is.
They're brutal.
And they are. Listen, they are. But I respect that. And so you are definitely leading by influencing, and that is tremendous, because guess what? When that young person sees you, sees Tram, sees me, sees any of you, all of a sudden, where they want to be is possible. They have seen a living example of what it is that they can be. And I think sometimes we forget that that is what leadership is. It's also by doing. And I have to tell you, every time I mention your name to someone like my friend Kim Covington over at ACF, loves you. Everyone loves you. It is overwhelming, you know, about their love and respect for you, because you are genuinely and authentically who you say you are. And that for a lot of people, that is what a good leader is. It's demonstrating the values that you're also trying to purport, you know, other people to be. It's just by living it. I think once you align with that, you really can be. So I will say you are a leader. So stop saying you're not a leader. Just say, I am leading by example.
And can I just add to that I think, because I guess I don't see myself the way other people do. I do my job the best that I can do. And that goes back to my mother always raising me by just being humble. That, you know, I don't need to shout from the mountaintops that I did this and I can do that and whatever. It is about working hard and letting your actions speak for themselves. And I think that that's what has just, you know, carried me. I do my job the best I can. And you just be humble. You just be humble, and you know your strengths, and people will see that. You don't have to tout it and shout it. You just do what you do. So yeah. Wonderful. And I love Kim Covington, by the way.
Yes. Don't we all? I mean, don't we
Yes.
all? Yes. See, look, Monica's agreeing.
Absolutely.
What about your leadership style?
I just want to say, Tram had me at Come Have a Drink with Me. I feel like she's invited us all to happy hour. So
Yes.
I'm in.
Cheers.
I'm in. I think when we think about leadership styles, we always go back to our roots. And I also go back, I was raised by a single mom who worked multiple jobs and, instilled certain values in me. And I try to replicate that, right? And I think definitely leading by example, leading by service, being your authentic self, because you never know who you will impact, who else is going through that same thing. And I just want to address in the Q&A box, Angela Salazar asked about, the recent push to stop glorifying the grind. And, with certain cultures that are underrepresented, you have to show up and show out. And so for certain cultures that are inherently humble, right, like the Latino culture that I come from, you're supposed to be very modest, you're supposed to be very humble, you're not supposed to be a braggart, all of those things. But we have to learn that our example is important because it opens the doors for others, right? And the more that we can see leadership as our legacy, it's about how many doors you can open for the next person, right, behind us. And I think women have started to do that more and more, but in underrepresented communities and minority communities, this is hard, right? This is really tough because we're not used to boasting or being boastful. And so to be able to say, yes, I did this, and I always say I'm such a hypocrite because I tell other women, like, own it. Own your success, do it, and empower. And then when it comes to me, I'm like, oh, I can't possibly do that.
That's me. We're all relating. Like, we're like high-fiving you over here. Like, yes, I know. I do it all the time. That's my mantra for my students, right? You have to let people know, but I will never. I get people that come up to me and go, hey, I heard a rumor that you did this. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. They're like, why didn't you tell anyone? I'm like, what was I supposed to do? Put out a press release? It just is what we do, right? Servant leaders just do. And so that's, but I always say servant leaders may need good PR people also, because the one thing is also, and I would say that sometimes men maybe do this more often than women, which is just starting off by telling you kind of a list of all the things they've done. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And I think because of how we're acculturated, it doesn't come across as them being braggadocious. It comes across as them just letting you know their, accomplishments. But when women do it sometimes, I think that it comes across like, well, she seems full of herself, or she seems to be kind of bragging. So that's the one thing I'm always careful about, is I always say to people is about balancing my feminine and masculine energies. That's what I've started to do. And I know in certain situations I need to balance them, because in certain situations it's important. So Dr. Trahan, please join us. What is your leadership style?
Yes, my leadership style, when you think about leadership, you think about, obviously, leading by example is very, very important. The way I think is, you are the only book that some people will ever read. Mm-hmm. What will they read when they see you? What will they read when they follow you? There's a lot of noise going on. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate yourself, right? And so leading by example is very important. Being humble is important. A lot of people get into leadership positions and feel as though they have to, be boastful, and it's a very fine line between discerning when you're being boastful, when you're being prideful, and when you are humble. Having a spirit of empathy and humility, it pretty much runs hand in hand. And so when you think about leading people to accomplish a common goal, leading people to walk in their purpose and in their calling, you have to display the right character traits in order to do that, or people will look at you as a hypocrite. You never want to get that reputation. You know, and always being an authentic you. Authenticity is key. I would rather be an authentic me than a cheap imitation of anyone else. Okay, so authenticity is key. People are able to discern, again, if you're being authentic. Okay, it's not something that you turn on when you're with this group of people, and then when you're with another group of people, you're another way. No, authenticity is being the authentic version of you everywhere you go, because it's you, it's your character trait. It's not something, you know, it's not me taking off the jacket, but it's who I am. And so that is, you know, leadership to me at its finest.
Wonderful. Well, it is time now for our first poll question. I would love to ask those in our audience a quick question. So as the question is queued up, there it is. The question is, have you ever felt a sense of insecurity, uncertainty, or the need to second guess yourself in a leadership role? I would love for you all to please weigh in and see what you think there. There goes our polling questions. Oh, wow, okay. We'll give it just a few more seconds there. We've got about 110 people. There we go. Wonderful, wow. Look at those percentages. Okay, we're counting down here. We've got about, okay. Oh, wow, look at that. Thank you. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Look at that. So we have got 95%. 95% of our audience have felt that. And let me tell you what that really is. So what we're talking about, this sense of uncertainty, the need to second guess yourself in a leadership role, that is a term known as the imposter syndrome. And so I want to just read a quick definition from you all's response there. According to the Harvard Business Review, the imposter syndrome is loosely defined as doubting your abilities and feeling lack of fraud. It is an internal dialogue that you have with yourself, and it affects high achieving people disproportionately because they find it difficult to accept their accomplishment. Now, the thing about the imposter syndrome is it can affect anyone, no matter their social status, work background, skill level, or degree of expertise. So I want to ask you, ladies, this is an important one. And I know for me, I oftentimes, I have experienced this. You know, people will say, oh, you're the executive director of DLA, you're kind of young. And I'm like, compared to what? Like, what's that? What's the barometer? What's the gauge? I mean, compared to, you know, and so, but what they're saying is, you know, how do you know how to lead? Well, you know, and oftentimes we find ourselves like having these conversations. I oftentimes will sit at a table of people, because I work at ASU, that have PhDs and really intelligent people, and I'm thinking, man, do I belong at this table? Like, why did they invite me? You know, you start looking around and you're like, okay, well, I'm here. And, you know, and everyone's like, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and I've done, and I'm like, hi, I'm Joanna. Like, you know, it's kind of like, it just is. And, you know, again, I know that I'm there because I have something to contribute. I have a voice, I have a narrative, I have a perspective. And of course, they wouldn't invite me to be at that table if they did not think I had value. So I would love to ask, you know, and I'll start with Monica. Have you ever experienced this notion of imposter syndrome? And has it hindered your ability to lead in any way? Please.
Yeah, every single day, still, you know, and you work through it and you work through ways, but I keep waiting for someone to figure out that I'm just some snot-nosed kid from East LA, who just, you know, who got, you know, lucky. and you know, now I'm doing these things. And I'll share just a quick story with you. I received an award a couple of years ago, and it was like Entrepreneur of the Year or something or other for a national magazine. And you know, even as I describe it, I'm like, oh, it's this thing. You know, it was nothing. It was no big deal. But I remember receiving the letter, and the first thought in my mind as I read, you know, you have been awarded this, was, oh, they must have sent this to the wrong Monica Susana Villalobos. There must be some other Monica Susana Villalobos that should be getting this. Like, this was clearly, and it's work every single day, and people are depending on me to live up to it. So that's kind of one of the ways that I try to combat that imposter syndrome, but it's a daily thing, and the struggle is real.
I understand. Tran, what about you? Do you oftentimes have that kind of fear or anxiety, or does it creep up? It can't possibly creep up for you.
Joanna, let me tell you. Okay, first of all, am I unmuted? You can hear me, right? Okay, first. So it's funny because I'm jotting down these notes because that's what I do. And I'm looking at the list of when I have felt, you know, a little insecure, when I feel so nervous because I am out of my comfort zone. I'll take you back, you know, rewind, I don't know, at least what, it's got to be 20 years ago now. It was my my third job in Columbus, Ohio. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always wanted to be a reporter. Okay. And so I never thought about anchoring. That's a whole different deal. And so here I am in Columbus, Ohio. I'm so excited that I don't need to one-man band anymore, which is carrying my tripod and my camera, you know, and just working my tail off. And then all of a sudden, my news director is like, you know what? We want to put you on the desk. We're going to give you a shot at anchoring. I never asked to anchor, never, ever. Because you know why? I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I was pretty enough. I didn't think I was, you know, anchory enough, whatever you want to call it. I just didn't think that I had what it took to be on the desk. But that news director, he saw how hard I worked. He saw the stories that I told. He saw that, you know, he saw some potential that I didn't see. And so he gave me that shot. And let me tell you, I was on the noon show and I was so nervous. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do I belong here? Am I going to stutter? Am I going to stumble? You know, what's going to happen? And so that's an example. Another example, I'll tell you here at Channel 12, it was last year during this whole pandemic. Bram Resnick was sick. He is our top dog political reporter, really the best in the Valley, right? Nobody knows politics like Bram. I'll tell you a little secret. Politics is not my forte, okay? So when he calls in sick, guess who they asked to fill in? What? Are you kidding me? I have to be like Bram Resnick? Oh my gosh. No. Talk about nerves, right? And I had a very contentious interview with the Maricopa County recorder. And it was so crazy. Another example, sports. Once again, not my forte, okay? I couldn't tell you the rules of football, baseball, all of it. It's fun to watch, but I really go for the food. Okay, so anyways, they want me to, you know, field anchor / report from the Waste Management Phoenix Open, both last year and then this year. And once again, as I had mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing opening day for the D-backs for baseball. It's April 9th. So later on today, I have to go, you know, shoot some stories. Again, kind of a little out of my wheelhouse, but as a journalist, you kind of have to know a little bit about everything. Those are the examples of when I have felt, you know, just, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. can I do this? But I also go back to, yes, I can. Yes, I can do this. You know why? Because I've done it before. I do my homework. I'm hardworking. I believe in myself, and I'm relatable. And that carries me through this. I know I rely on my strengths and what I've learned. And if I could have done that back then, I can do it now. And then the best feeling is when I do it and I'm having fun and I'm being authentic. Dr. Traham keeps talking about being authentic. Yes, you are authentic because that's how you got to where you are at, by being authentic. And because of that, I know that I can do this. As much as it makes my hair on fire and I go crazy and I'm nervous, I can do this. So that's what I go back to. So yes, I've definitely had many, many, many times of imposter syndrome.
Thank you so much for those examples. And that is just that. It is usually a fleeting moment, and it's usually an internal dialogue. Even Michelle Obama talks about it. As I was reading her book, I'm like, Michelle Obama? And like, I can't get any greater than you. Like, but she has about those moments, right? And the thing that she also mentions, those moments pass. Like anything else, you have to let yourself feel them. You know, then you check, you autocorrect, you check yourself, right? And then you move on. So Liz, what about you? Have you had a moment where you've had that imposter syndrome kind of creep in, that fear, anxiety, uncertainty? And please share with us.
Of course, mainly this panel. Look at these like impressive, established women, and I got invited to speak along with them. And I was like, do these people not know I'm not a professional speaker? Like, what? You know, absolutely. Every time when I have to start a project, when I have to lead, you know, people, it's a fleeting moment, like you said, and it does come from, you know, the being expected to be the speaker of, for example, I've been in mainly dominant, male dominant industries. Being a woman in those industries, you're expected to speak as a woman of color, as an LGBT community member. Ooh, what does she think? Does she, you know, you're expected to speak for the entirety of your gender, your race. So that comes from that too. And you're, you know, as an immigrant, the model minority thing, right? Like you're expected to be that person that speaks for this group of people, which you are not. You speak for yourself. I speak for myself, my individual self. So it comes from that, right? And I do get very bad imposter syndrome, especially when I got invited to this panel right here. But like what Tram said, you know, you dial it back and you say, wait a minute, I know how to do this. I know how to speak to people. I know how to tell a good story. I have experiences that I can impart that people can relate to. Yeah, sure, I can do this. And then like, yes, I will be in this panel. And, you know, and if you come from a place of learning too, when you're always willing to learn, the nervousness goes out the window, to be honest. That's how I approach anything, really. This panel, work, day-to-day life. If you come from a place of learning, you will never be nervous because you're always going to win. There's always something to learn from, you know, there's always something new. So that's that's my experience with imposter syndrome.
I love that learning list. I'm trying to focus because I'm also taking notes, Tram. I'm a note taker. I always learn things when I'm on. It's not just about, so I'm like, focus, Joanna, you're supposed to be moderating, but there's some nuggets being dropped here. So I want to make sure I capture them. But that's the whole thing. And to realize, so Liz, I was very, you know, intentional. There was a lot of intentionality with bringing you on this panel because, as I said in the description, it's about diverse voices. And I think often I wanted to find others that were leading in their space without them even knowing they were leading in their space. And a special thank you to Tandra, who works over at University of Phoenix, for connecting us with the alumni organization that said, we have a perfect person that is leading in their space, that is making change, right? And that is really kind of setting the stage for what women can be. And so I was like, well, I need to meet her then. Like, let's bring her on. Because I think it's important for people to see themselves in all of you. So Dr. Traham, what about you?
I have definitely experienced imposter syndrome pretty much all of my life. You know, when you think about your purpose, there's always going to be that voice that have you thinking that you can't do something. You're not good enough to do it. oh, I don't belong here. Oh, I was raised in extreme poverty, so I don't deserve to be here. But one of the things that I've realized is this: you have fear, and then you have faith. The opposite of fear is faith. The opposite of faith is fear. Faith is the substance of the things that you hope for, but it's the evidence of the things that you do not see. And so when you begin to think about the imposter syndrome, it is a hindering ability to lead, right? It refers to an internal experience of believing that you are not as competent as other people are, or other people perceive you to be. And then I began to rehearse this scripture in my mind in the book of Proverbs. It's wisdom. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Whatever it is that you think in your heart is who you are. So we have to begin to think. We have to begin to know that we were placed here to solve a problem. Our mere existence here today, because if you woke up this morning, that means that you have purpose. There is purpose for your life. And so you are here to solve a problem. So if we're here to solve a problem, if we're here to add value, if we are part of the solution and not the problem, we're going to have to overcome the spirit of fear. Yes, it's going to creep in, but you're going to have to take the initiative. You're going to have to take, you're going to have to just go out. You're going to have to just overcome it. And remember that we all have insecurities. Now, one human being don't have this insecurity. We all do. But the goal is we have to keep on going. It's okay to sound stupid. A lot of us, oh, did I sound stupid? Did I sound right? Did I, worrying about what other people say or think about us. The trajectory of that has to change, because if we're always concerned about what other people are thinking about us, we never get to walk in the fullness and the capacity of what we're placed here, the problem that we're placed here to solve. So absolutely, I've experienced it, and every day is a day to fight it. Every day you have to fight. That's why there's 24 hours in a day. Every single day we have to fight to these things. And so that is the experience that I've had with imposter syndrome. I still have it every day, but every day I wake up, I'm fighting it, and I'm going to continue to fight it, because my purpose here on earth is bigger than me. It's, we don't want the next generation to have to go through some of the things that we went through. So it's bigger. And so that is my experience with imposter syndrome. And I think that's a really, really great question. So thank you for even bringing that up.
So I am surprised that, that all of you have had that, because I know I've had that myself. And the one thing that resonates with me across all of your stories and all of the, experiences that you all shared with us is that, guess what? Even though you felt it, you still combated it, moved past it, and did the thing you're supposed to do. So while you may not have known the, political, realm, and while you may not have known the sports realm, you still did it, and do it with a certain level of confidence and knowing that this is the best. This is me. And I love the 4 Agreements is a book I read and I visited all the time. If you've never read the 4 Agreements, it's wonderful, because one of the agreements is just do your best. That's it. In this moment, is this your best? And if you say, yep, that's it. I've been on calls before. I had this in my class yesterday. I stumbled on a word. I was doing a lecture, and I literally had to stop and say to my students, okay, I'm just going to tell you guys this. I don't know how to pronounce this word. And they chuckled, and they were like, really, Professor Chasity? No, I mean, I'm going to take a shot at it, just so you know. I've never seen this word before, so there we go. And in that moment, my students were like, wow, I don't think another professor would have admitted that they don't know how to listen. There's no air about me. There are things I don't know, but I am a lifelong learner. And as a lifelong learner, best believe if I don't know it, I will learn about it and I will move past. A lot of people are commenting on transparency. That is what makes this so wonderful. So again, I echo what Patricia has in the chat there. Thank you to all of you for your transparency. I think oftentimes we have a perception, right? A set of, assumptions that we've made about who people are, what they believe and what they represent. So I thank all of you for being so transparent with us today. Now, I want to get ready for our second poll question. I would love to ask the audience, so if you would get ready to vote again. Our second poll question is the following. Do you have a formal mentor in your workplace or workspace? I would love to hear what everyone has to say. I want to see what those numbers are looking like. Do you have a formal mentor? Someone that you meet with, someone that you in your workplace? Okay, we'll give it just a few more seconds there. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of no's. Okay, we've got 72. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so based on the survey here, of our 185 or so people on the call, we've got 28% that say, yes, I've got a formal mentor in the workplace, but an overwhelming 72% say no, they do not have a formal mentor in the workplace. So ladies, let's talk through that and let's kind of investigate that a little bit. Now, as you're thinking about mentoring and mentorship, I know the value of that. I think my entire career, my entire life, I've had formal mentors, informal mentors. And as we kind of move through, we'll also talk about the idea of sponsors and sponsorship. And so I've always had people that have said, hey, let's talk about what you do next. Here's how you position yourself. Here are some things that you should be doing. Here are some circles that you can be in. Here's some boards that you should be vested in. So I've had some wonderful, wonderful mentors in my life that have helped me kind of navigate. So I would love to know, how important is it to have a mentor? So we'll start with Monica. How important is it to have a mentor?
I mean, if you want to level up, I think it's critical. You absolutely have to, but we don't know that early on. And to your point, there's formal and informal mentors. And I think through most of my career, I had informal mentors, everyone from, my mother to, the cleaning lady at the hotel to, the president of a bank, and these were just kind of shared conversations that they were willing to give a piece of themselves and give a learning to me, and that I actively received it, right? And then there's formal mentoring, and that can come in many different forms, coaching, there's a big thing on life coaches right now, career coaches, interview coaches. And I learned this lesson when I was applying for this position, because I will be very frank with all, 200 people on here. I thought, I've been with the organization for 7 years. What do I need a coach for? Like, I know the organization, like the back of my hand. We were going through a formal search for president and CEO, and it just didn't occur to me. And it was actually Congressman Stanton's wife, Nicole, who saw an exchange that I had at a formal event and came up to me and said, do you have an interview coach? And I said, no, what's that? Why would I need that? And she said, and she wrote down a number and she said, here, talk to her. And, it made all the difference in the world. It really did. It was the first time I knew I had experienced mentorship, but it was the first time that I was formally coached. And I was pretty well along in my career, so it was like, well, if it ain't fixed, don't broke it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And so now I swear by it. But I think people also need to realize one thing. Mentors aren't the only ones that do work in the mentorship relationship, right? As a mentee, you have to come to that meeting, to that conversation, ready and prepared to face your weaknesses, to take advice and not get defensive about it, and show up. Right? And just show up. So I think that's really the critical understanding about not just being a mentor and being able to share, but being a mentee and actively receiving that gift that you're getting, because that's what it is. It's a gift.
Oh, that is so wonderful. Thank you so much. So for the 28% of you that said you do have a mentor, what Monica is saying is so critical. I have mentored so many young people, and you would not believe the number when I say, okay, call me at this time, let's connect, no phone call. 2 days later. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, oh, hey, I got really busy. And so then I have to affectionately check a few people and say, let me explain something to you about how this relationship works. This is a two-way relationship, right? So just like I'm showing up, and I said, what you have to understand is the value of time. Right? It is not a commodity for those of us that have children, those of us that have lives, those of us that have multiple jobs, those of us that are serving on multiple boards. It is the one commodity I do not have enough of. So when I say we're going to talk at 3 o'clock, we're going to talk at 3 o'clock. Now, if you can't talk at 3 o'clock, you have to communicate that to me, because well, can we just meet tomorrow morning? It's like, yeah, no, see, because my whole week is planned. My 2 weeks are planned. You know, I know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow morning. I knew that a month ago. That's why I said, can we talk at 3 o'clock? So for a mentee, you have to know that it's also incumbent upon you to drive the relationship. What is it that you want your mentor to do? Is it that you want them to introduce you to someone? Is it that you want them to review your resume? Is it that you want them to, so it's like, what is it that you want them to do? Because the one thing, with a lot of mentees that I have, they're like, can we just chat? And I'll always say, give me some context for what our chat is about, because this with busy people, what they don't have is an hour to just sit with you and chat. I need to know that there's some metrics, some measurements, some progress, some goals, so that when we come back the next time, we can say, hey, last time you were going to meet with the, interview coach. Did you do that? And we can kind of go through some of the things about it. So that's, I think, really critical. But Liz, what about you? Are mentors important?
They're absolutely important. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't have any formal and informal mentors. And just like what everybody is saying, you have to be an active and receptive mentee. You have to drive that relationship as well. You both have equal investment in where this is going, right? So absolutely find a mentor. Even if you don't have a formal mentorship program in whatever, job you're in, seek knowledge from a person that you align your values, your experience with, that you want to be that person, you want to learn their path. How did they get there? So representation and visibility matters. And that's why, like, if there's a person that's approaching you and asking you questions and wanting to learn from you, take up that mantle and teach that person, impart your knowledge, because they see something in you that they align with, and they want to follow that path because you've been successful. So it's a two-way relationship. I'm always going to be a mentee. I can be a mentor too. I've been a mentor, but I'm always going to be a mentee. I always come from a place of learning, always, because you have to constantly improve yourself. So it is very important to seek out those mentors. And if there's no mentorship program in your work, try to promote that. Foster those, cultivate those relationships where you're allowed to learn, you're allowed to make mistakes, and you're allowed to learn from someone. They don't have to be in the same department as you. They don't have to be even in the same industry as you. Whatever it is that they can impart, that you can learn from and improve on, learn from that person. I have a multitude of mentors, not just in my industry, but like family, people who started their own business. I mean, you can learn from anybody, and you can improve on yourself based off of those things. So mentor-mentee relationship is a two-way thing. Gotta invest both ways. And speaking on the time thing, I know you said something about, like, younger people, their sense of time and how they value time, it's not there yet, because they're still trying to figure themselves out. There's also imposter syndrome going on. They're like, oh, why is she wanting to teach me? Like, why am I so important that she's putting all this focus on me? I mean, there's so many things that's going on in a young person's mind. So you got to put that into consideration too, as a mentor. You got to put the boundary thing, right? You said, hey, I have all these things planned for the weekend. I only have an hour with you, and that's going to be on Friday. We got to put those into consideration too, that younger people, the way they value time, there's really no value there yet, but they get to that point. I mean, I was that young person too, where, I thought I was investing time into my mentorship, but I had to get checked. Hey, listen, you were late 5 minutes. I only have 55 minutes with you. Right. And that's all I have for you. So I mean, there's so many things to put into consideration as a mentor and mentee, but that's my thoughts on it.
Wonderful. So Dr. Trahan, for someone that is an entrepreneur, let's say, you know, Liz mentioned the whole idea of systems, right? If you've got a formal mentorship program or you know someone, for our entrepreneurs who are consultants, who are working for themselves, right? How do they find a mentor and how important is mentoring for them? So any advice on our entrepreneurs that may be joining us today on how they also get a mentor and you know, how important mentors are for them?
Absolutely. Mentorship is very, very important. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know that you don't know. So you need someone with the knowledge and experience in your field, in the field that you're in, that are willing to share the knowledge to help you achieve those goals. So you want to align yourself with ecosystems and organizations that can help you get there. The Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Black Chamber of Commerce. I actually have an organization and it is built on mentorship, because when I started my entrepreneur journey, I did not have access to these type of platforms. And so if you don't know what you don't know, then you don't know what organizations you need to be a part of. You don't know how to start those conversations. A lot of entrepreneurs, they struggle with networking. They struggle with knowing, what do I need to say? They struggle with, you know, basic business etiquette. You know, if I wanted someone to mentor me, how do I engage? How do I engage them? What do I say to them? One of the pieces of advice that I always give before you reach out to someone that you don't know, asking them for something, figure out a way how you can add value to them. You know, that can be empowering them, that can, you know, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be monetary. You know, how do you add value to someone? So a lot of people, you know, they just think about themselves. And I get this a lot. I get hundreds of messages and emails, you know, can you mentor me? Can you mentor me? And, you know, some of these people have yet to do any research to even know that we have a program that focuses on mentorship. So researching is very, very important, doing proper research, because people that are time constrained, busy people, you know, they're going to know if you did the proper research. So that is very, very important. And another tip that I would give, when you're looking for a mentor or looking to engage a mentor, make sure that you are engaging with someone that has accomplished what you're looking to accomplish. Okay. We live in a world now where everyone is a mentor, everyone is a coach, everyone is, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine, because I believe that there are levels to everything. There are levels. So where you are, you know, today, you may need another level of mentorship or advice or experience a year from now. So wherever you are now, you got to make sure that this person have done what you're looking to have accomplished, because a lot of people are getting very disappointed because they're getting a mentor that have yet to do what you're looking to accomplish yourself. So it's very important that you are able to define and to do the proper research to understand if this is a good fit, because you don't want to waste time. So mentorship is absolutely important.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, Dr. Trahan is talking about kind of building this ecosystem with mentors that are in your field. Talk about, are all of your mentors in kind of the news field or this specific field, or do you have any that are outside that field, and how important are mentors for the work that you do?
Yeah, I love how Dr. Trahan had talked about find who you want to be, right? That is the end goal. And I think that's where it starts with. For me, being first an intern at an LA station, KBC, which I grew up watching. So arriving there was like, being there, being around the people who I looked up to. Oh my gosh, from an intern to a production assistant, I just, you know, was a sponge. I mean, I was polite. I said hi to everyone walking in the hallway. I made sure they know my name. And so, from producers to anchors to reporters, I hit them all up. I wanted to learn. And I love what Liz was talking about when she said, you need to come from a place of learning, because if you don't open up that and embrace other people's knowledge and you think you're a know-it-all, you're not going to learn anything. And so it has to come from that open, receptive point of view where, please, enlighten me, educate me. I'm here to learn from the best, right? And so, these people who took me under their wing, this little intern, telling me from what to wear, to my makeup, to storytelling, to even from the way I stand or should I sit. I mean, it all came from a good place. And so, I just soaked that up. Now being at 12, I think I've learned, just kind of being somewhat of the veteran in the newsroom, I think I've kind of almost taken on the role of being a mentor now, which is an awesome responsibility. I love it. I love talking to young people. I love, educating and inspiring interns. Even with my peers, just 2 days ago, I had this conversation with one of the producers about, let's come to the table with the solution. Again, there's always going to be problems wherever you work, wherever you are, but what's the solution? And take that idea to the manager, right? And then, from students who come through for tours in our newsroom and down in our studio, I love telling them that, your junior year, go get that internship. That is what helped me get my foot in the door and go out there, because the best experience that you will ever get in your field is to be hands-on and to be doing what you want to do. And that internship gives you that opportunity. And then, it's so great that these interns that, you kind of just see in passing, it's so wonderful that they come back to you and they say, okay, I'm looking to get a job now. What should I know? What should I do? What should I tell the news director? How do I sell myself? Or when they come to you with their demo reel. And again, it has to be from a very vulnerable point of view that, listen, I'm going to critique you and I'm going to be honest with you. So you got to be prepared for that. And I'm here to help you. And I think that's key, is just being receptive and open, and just, be willing to put that guard down and take that information and run with it and just be a better person because of it.
Oh, that is so wonderful and so true. Monica said something earlier, and you've all kind of touched on it. The mentor-mentee relationship, please understand, it is a gift to find a good mentor. They sometimes are better. Listen, it's better than my therapist sometimes, because I have mentors that are like, I gotta talk to you, and I've had very specific questions about guiding through a situation, navigating and pivoting, and things like that. But I have to tell you the thing about gifts. Okay, and I have a few. It's so funny. Someone just reminded me. I have a few of my mentees on this call, people I've mentored. But like anything else, it's a gift. But let me tell you something about gifts. Sometimes people are not very good at receiving them.
Wow.
That is the one it is such an odd phenomenon, right? To get a gift, and there are people that are just not good at receiving. And that has been something that I have just noticed time and time again with a lot of the mentees that I've worked with. It's like, this is the gift of someone's knowledge, the gift of someone's time, the gift of someone's access. So it is something that you should not take for granted. But I'm finding a lot of people finding it hard to receive this information. Like, I'm a sponge. I'm always like, critique me. Tell me what I could do better. How can I be more? Because at the end of the day, I want to be the best me, the best version of me. And there's no way I'll ever be like, well, I don't need any improvement. I don't need it. It's never that. It's always something you can learn, a way you can pivot. And I think that's really, really important. So thank you all for sharing that. I want us to take our last poll question and kind of pivot the conversation a little bit. So the last poll question we have is around this idea of allyship and co-conspirators and people that can help you navigate in this space. So the question is this: can men be effective allies for women leaders? Can men be effective allies for women leaders? Or do you feel like in order to progress and lead that it has to be another woman? I would love to ask that question. Men as allies, men as allies. Okay, and please be honest. I mean, not that you wouldn't be, but you know, it's okay. So overwhelming response. We've got 119 of you, 98% of you that say absolutely yes, men can be effective allies for women leaders, which is wonderful. Now, as we talk about the idea of allyship and co-conspirators, I want to just kind of clarify a little bit about this, because you know, I've got allies, people that will always support me, that are there. They may not necessarily be another person of color, but they are definitely understanding of the plight I'm in. And then I have co-conspirators. And let me explain, this is about the basic way that I can explain a co-conspirator. They are active in the fight with you. As my friend Sutha said on one of her presentations, they are willing to go to jail with you if you're protesting something. Like that is that, you know, and if they see you in the street bleeding, they're going to walk in the street, even if they're walking in harm's way, to pick you up and, you know, take you out of that situation. A co-conspirator is an active role, okay? Where an ally is a bit more of a passive role, but still important. So I would love to ask all of you, and Liz, we're actually going to start with you this time. What advice do you have for people who want to be allies, people who want to be co-conspirators in terms of supporting women in their different roles and in the workplace? What advice do you have for them? What can they do? Can they approach someone to say, hey, Liz, would love to work with you on this? Is that something they can do?
Absolutely. You have to have the ability to promote other people, to celebrate what value they bring to the table, what they can contribute to whatever it is you guys are doing at work, in your relationships, whatever have you. You have to have that, I guess, that you have to have that eye, I guess, to be able to recognize that these people can bring value to something. And if you see that you're the only woman in whatever it is you're doing, you need to start promoting others to that role too. You need to start bringing them to the table with you. And absolutely, men are, they can be amazing allies and co-conspirators. I mean, again, I've been working in predominantly male industries most my professional life. So I've had plenty of mentors, mentees, allies, co-conspirators that have exclusively been men, straight men, you know, and this was during my time. I'll just give an example. When I was in the US Navy, I was, you know, serving in silence. LGBT could not serve at the time because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And the fact that I have all these allies and co-conspirators, you know, in just simple like conversations where they say, hey, why do we have Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Something so simple as having that in a conversation with me in there, with somebody saying something like, oh yeah, we shouldn't have LGBT people serving in the military, you know, and somebody just coming out of nowhere, you know, especially male, straight, saying, why not? You know, and they didn't know that I was at the time, you know. So again, it is so important to even have like just a simple conversation, even like what you think is offhand, just showing support and fostering like that empowerment on people. It is such an important thing to do. So absolutely, men can be co-conspirators, definitely. They will go to bat for you. But, you know, as a person that would need allies and co-conspirators, you also have to be true to yourself. I mean, we keep going back to this. Be transparent, be an authentic you, because you will draw those people in, right? Oh, well, if this person's so closed off and, you know, not their authentic self, people can discern that. People can read it. They can tell. But if you're your authentic self, they're drawn to you because you're a light, you know. And again, I'm coming from a place of privilege on that too, because I'm a very extroverted person. I do recognize that there are people that have different personality traits that are introverted, that may appear as if they're not being authentic, they're not being their authentic self. So you have to recognize that stuff too. You gotta, again, going back to being a good leader, you gotta know how to read the room. You gotta know how to read people, because sometimes what you may perceive as someone that's being, closed off, inauthentic, they're just being shy, or they're just introverted. They don't have the energy to deal with this right now, but later they will, and they will show it in their own way. So again, that's my thoughts on it.
It's so funny, authenticity. We've been saying that over and over. And I have to tell you something funny. Is my son, who was at the time, I think your kid's age, Tram, so about 7 years old, he had to introduce me to his class because it was bring mommy to work day or some such thing. But and you know me, I'm very extroverted. And anybody on here that knows me, I am this way, in every situation I'm in. But very loud, very humor is a part of something I enjoy, because I want to learn. So I want to genuinely connect. And so I'm talking about something, and then my son says, and this is my mom, and just so you know, she's like this all the time. This is just how she, and I was like, wait, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He's like, no, she's like this all the time at work, when she's talking to really important people. She's just like this all the time. And I was thinking, I'm not sure if that was a compliment or an insult. I'm not really, but it's coming from a 7-year-old. So I'm going to go with compliment on this one. But it is that. It is exactly that, is being your authentic self. I'm not worried about putting on an air of being, whether I'm talking to 7-year-olds, right, in a first grade class, or whether I'm talking to, president and CEOs of corporations, because that authenticity is how we move the needle. And it's also what I do it this way because I want people to know that when you show up to these workspaces and these tables, we can't expect them to make us feel like we belong there if we're showing up as someone else, and that's the whole thing, this idea of belonging. Diversity, equity, inclusion is important, but belonging is that overlay that we really have to think about. Once we've invited people to the party, do they feel like they belong there? And even more than that, can they help pick the music? And what we're going to be eating at this party, and that's the whole thing about the idea of belonging. It's this investment in people that says, yes, you matter. What you think matters, and how you think we should run our organization, run our corporate culture is important. So that's my story of my 7-year-old just being like, yeah, she's like this all the time. So I'm like, geez, I don't know if I need to bring it down a notch or not, but okay. But Dr. Trahan, please, how important are our allies? How important are co-conspirators? And can men certainly serve in that role?
Absolutely. I think it's very important. And this is why we have organizations like the Diversity Leadership Alliance. It goes back to diversity, and it goes back to leadership. I believe that you can be in authority and under authority as well. You're never too, you're never too old, or you're never too smart to learn. Everyone has a uniqueness that you could actually learn from. And so when you get to a space where you think that you can't learn something, you can learn something from anybody, even if it's learning what not to do. You can learn something. So I believe that men obviously have things that we can learn from. They have traits that we can learn from, and us as women have things they can learn from. We have traits that can help them. So I think it's definitely a unified positioning. I talk a lot about mutualism. Mutualism in accomplishing whatever the goal is. So diversity is important. Getting out of your comfort zone, and how you receive things, it's very important. A lot of people seek to understand rather than to be understood, or so I think that how you perceive things, you got to put yourself in a position where you're not always offended. A lot of people are always offended. Any little thing would offend them. Oh, the tonality of the voice offended me. How this person said that offended me. Let's take off the cult of offensiveness so that we can receive what we need to receive to accomplish the mission or the purpose. So absolutely.
Wonderful. Monica, what about you? Can you share a little bit about the idea of allies and co-conspirators and just really that whole relationship?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I also have children. I have two boys. They're very 9 and very 11, like not just a little bit, but a lot. And, you know, oftentimes I do my thing and I can hear them like sigh. They'll be like, here she goes again, right? And I'm like, did you just breathe at me? Did you just breathe at me? You know, and it's this whole thing because they know what's coming. But in all seriousness, for me, it's important that they love strong women when they're older. And in order to do that, they have to be raised by one. And if I had daughters, I would say the same thing. You know, I want them to be strong women. And so for me, when I think of sort of allyship and co-conspirators and what my children see around me is who they see me as. And so those co-conspirators, those allies, whether personal or professional, are absolutely critical to motherhood for me. And so, you know, I love the distinction that you made with co-conspirators and allyship. I see co-conspirators, I call them my tarp, shovel, bleach crew, right? These are the folks that, you know, all you have to do is pick up the phone and they're going to be there. Right? They're not going to ask any questions. They're just going to be like, okay, you know, what do we need to do? So that's the tarp, shovel, bleach crew. And they're also the ones that I utilize when I'm having a fit of the imposter syndrome, and I'll call up and I'll say, I can't do this. I know I can't do this. And they're like, yes, you can. Yes, absolutely you can. You know, and they'll kind of get you through it. Allyship to me is really your own personal board of directors. Right? These are the folks that are on one mission with you. Whatever your purpose is, they are on that mission with you. It is far more specific in their allyship, and it is far more it's more formal in many ways. Allyship is critical. I have noticed when I look back at my career, it was mostly white men over 60 that gave me that mentorship that were allies in helping me get promoted, you know, through work or understand a business concept or, you know, in entrepreneurship, because they had the knowledge. They already had that wisdom, that experience. And so I think, you know, when you're looking at allyship, it's different than co-conspirators, because co-conspirators, you know, you want people who are like-minded. You know, you have to trust that those people are going to understand what you're saying before it comes out of your mouth, right? And that they're going to know, you know, when you're joking and when you're not, and they're going to show up. With allies, it really is much more about, again, that purpose. That's what you have in common, and that purpose is, you know, it's your purpose, and that's the mission for that group. And so as your board of directors, they're advising you as if they would be advising a company to steer in the right direction. So that is sort of the, you know, the difference for me, and a little tongue in cheek there, but I think it's important to make sure that you understand who's who in your crew.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've got some amazing co-conspirators that I don't think I could do life without, really. I mean, they're like my life partners. And yes, they are definitely going to come with the shovel and go, okay, what are we bleaching? You know, so it's something I absolutely love. So I completely agree. Tram, you know, talk to me a little bit about allies and co-conspirators, but most importantly, someone had asked the question about, what if, say, someone wanted a Tram Mai as a mentor, but they're not at the station, they're not in your world? How does someone who sees you as what, you know, aspirational, someone they aspire to be like, how do they reach out to a Tram, a Monica, a Dr. Traham, seeking you as a mentor? Is that something? Unmute yourself.
There we go. Okay. One more time. My email, tmai@12news.com. Hit me up. I'm always open. My door is always open. So whatever they need, you know, I love to help other people. That's why I got in the business, is to help make a difference by telling great stories. So, but, you know, out of the gate, when you talk about co-conspirators, I don't know if I'm, you know, too biased, but I instantly think of my husband. I mean, he right? He would die for me, right? Family, husband, and being that he is also the founder of a company, he's an entrepreneur. Quick sidebar, my other dream in college was to have a coffee shop. And so guess what? He's living my dream and I get free coffee. So how great is that? It's a win-win.
What's it called? Where's it at?
Okay, I'm not here to promote, really, I'm not, but it's called Press Coffee because I'm in the press. So anyways, on a sidebar, but I look to him as somebody who manages over 100 people now, right? And somebody who has my best interest. And I think that is the key, whether it's a co-conspirator or an ally. They come from a good place. They want you to be better. They are invested in you. There is no ego. There is no competition. It is all because they care about you and they want you to be the best. So, you know, co-conspirator, hands down, my husband. When we're talking about allies, I have a list of men in my life right now at Channel 12 who I absolutely love. I always say I want to be president of their fan club. Okay. So out of the gate, the people behind the scenes, I would say Ivan, who is my assistant news director. I have come to him, you know, from personal problems to professional problems. And he is somebody who has my best interest, who wants me to succeed. When my hair is on fire, how can he help me? Again, I'll refer to today's example. You know, I'm going to be at Chase Field probably at least until 2 o'clock this afternoon. He could have had me go back to the station, you know, read for the 4 o'clock and then anchor the 4. But let's not put Tram's hair on fire as much. And let's just have her out live at 4 o'clock and do 3 live hits, right? This is, you know, how to work smarter, not harder. You've heard that saying so many times. And then there's my producer, Dylan. He's my 4 o'clock producer. Let me tell you, I call him a kid because I feel like, you know, I'm kind of the old veteran in the newsroom, but he is, you know, a young 20-something, hungry, passionate, smart, just great producer. And he is new. I mean, I think he just passed his year mark. And I love him because I feel like if there is breaking news or, you know, he wants to try something. And as you clearly see, I'm not good with technology, but he'll have me at, you know, this screen with the TV and I gotta like, you know, do stuff and everything. I'm like, Dylan, don't let me look stupid, okay? But he's got my back. These are people who have my back, who want me to succeed. The 3 other people that, if you watch Channel 12, you know very well, I would say Cam Cox in sports, because again, sports is not my forte. Bram Resnick, our political guru. Again, politics, I gotta do my homework. And Mark Curtis. Those 3 guys, I want to be president of their fan club. They have my back. I can go to them easily and be like, you know what? Can you explain to me exactly, you know, how this is, break it down for me so that I can break it down well to the viewers. I mean, these are people who there is no ego. They are here to help and they come from a good place. They're not going to laugh at me. They're going to laugh with me, right? And those are your allies. Those are people who just want the best for you. And I love these men in my life. I'm very blessed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Welcome back, Liz. I know we had some technical difficulties with you. So glad you're back with us. So can you believe we're at time? So I'm going to have to kind of bring us back in because I know, right? That was so fun. So you ladies, you have to promise me we can do this again because I want to be able to have these conversations. And I think it's important for people. And by the way, Trams, I'll tell you, we have folks plugging press in the chat. You didn't have to say anything. we're getting comments like, I love pressed coffee, didn't know that was trans. It's their favorite coffee. And someone said, whoever thought of adding peanut butter powder to the caffeine?
That's great.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
You see,
Thank
and that's, by the way, I think it's very important that women learn to do is to promote other women. I want to dispel this notion that just because you've been brought in as the woman at the table, that there's not room for others. And that is something that the culture has taught us, right? We have to fight. So once a female is there, even if you're a female that's a female of color or representing an LGBTQ, Q plus community, that, oh, there's one of us, check that box. I want to dispel that notion that there is enough. There is enough for all of us, and that we should begin to promote other women, like we talked about fixing their crown, and making sure that they know that I'm one, but we're not this monolithic kind of thing. It's like, I am not woman, singular. There are women that represent so many other perspectives and socioeconomic groups and, religions and race and culture. And it is really important that we have a broad base for the narrative. So I want to encourage us all to ensure that we're always being as inclusive, as possible when we're at those tables. So before we take some questions, we have some questions from the audience, and we're gonna bring a few people in live. But before we do that, I would love to just get closing comments from all of you as we talked about. So when we started this, we talked about the idea of dispelling notions and also, so this is one of my closing questions. What can we do as women leaders to help kind of shift the narrative and make sure that we are not judging, labeling, or stereotyping other women? Judging, labeling, or stereotyping other women. So what is your advice? What can we do? Something that is a takeaway that folks can do. So Liz, I'm actually going to start with you.
Awesome. I always say, come from a place of learning and be your true authentic self. Know who you are. Because a lot of times when we judge people, we're projecting our own insecurities on them. So be true to yourself. Know what your weaknesses and strengths are, and just empower yourself to be confident in that. That way, I mean, honestly, if you go through life in that mindset, you're not going to be like automatically judging people, because you're always wanting to learn from someone. So you're not all the emotion that comes with like, oh, I don't like him or her because I don't like that attitude, blah, blah, blah. All that goes away because you just want to learn, right? What is this person going to teach me? If you come from that perspective, I feel like instantly the whole judging thing will go away. At least that's how I operate. And also, if you come from a place of, we were talking about how we need to promote women and empower other women, blah, 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 and stuff like that, right? Well, that comes from the scarcity and abundancy mentality. If you feel like you're the only one and you don't want anybody else in your lane, of course you're going to be judgmental. Of course you're going to be closed off. You're not going to be imparting any knowledge to anyone. You're not going to be learning from anyone. So always think that there's always space for everybody, not just females, not just males, everyone. I mean, that mentality does come from my, immigrant background, LGBTQ community. We're always so open because even though, for example, like I said, when I was serving in the Navy and Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in place, even then, like I was promoting, other LGBTQ people in the space of leadership, in the space of like, hey, let's celebrate this person, let's give them that award, even though they would come to me and like, hey, we're thinking about giving this award to you, and I'd be like, nah, give it to that person. Like don't feel like you're the only person in that space. Feel like there's abundance. Come on, we're a capitalist nation. There's abundancy everywhere. Have that mentality that there's always space for someone else, Of course, know how to celebrate yourself and be empowered to say, yeah, I'm confident. Yeah, of course, I'll take the award, whatever. But also have that space. Don't have that scarcity mentality. Always have that abundancy mentality. Always have space for other people. And that's how I feel about that.
Wonderful. Okay, Monica, what about you?
Thank you so much. I think these conversations are so compelling and so important because we need to do away with the Mean Girls Club, right? And y'all know who I'm talking about. There's some mean girls out there who will step on you. I just saw Velma slam her hands down. You know who they are. they're out there, and we need to stop that. We need to put a stop to the Mean Girls Club and make sure that we are lifting each other up. And I want to close with the quote from Gandhi: be the change that you want to see in the world. You have to embody that, you have to be that, live it, love it, and share it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Dr. Trahan.
Wow, I almost wanted to just get up and run around. So here is, I believe, and I can say a whole lot about this, but to just summarize it, you reap what you sow, okay? Whatever it is that you sow, shall you reap. And so whatever it is, people always say, well, what does that mean? Well, whatever it is, so if then you're going to get that back. If you're pouring into other people, then you're going to reap a harvest. If you're having a bad time right now, then you may want to assess what you did in the last season. What did you sow in the last season? Because you're not going to get your harvest in the same season that you plant. So whatever it is that you sow, shall you reap. So be very cognizant of that.
Very good. Thank you. Tran, closing words for us, please.
Oh my gosh. I got to tell you, I just love being in such great company. I really do. It's so inspiring. And this right here, I'm going to tell you, this is an example of how we should all be, right? I would say be authentic, be confident in who you are. That doesn't mean you have to be braggadocious. Be humble. And I think that speaks to when you are humble, you are open. You're open to receive, and drop the ego, right? Because I think the ego is what fuels a lot of this competitiveness. And it's like, if we drop the ego, we are just such a better person and can learn so much better because of it. And there's this saying that I'd heard way back in college, way back, and it still resonates with me to this day. And it is, know from whence you came. If you know from whence you came, there is no limit to where you will go. And I think with that, you hold that in your heart, and with your authentic self, and with your non-ego driven self, and you are ready to learn, you are ready to embrace, you are ready for friendship and culture and sisterhood. And just, I just think that, especially now more than ever, when we're in this huge united female movement, that we need to remember that, and we need to just have that seed planted with us, and to foster and grow with it. And just, like the beginning of your whole panel discussion, that video, that beautiful montage that you said, love each other, embrace each other. That's where we need to be.
That is so wonderful. Ladies, what an edification. I mean, I have been fed today, and that is what it's all about. I think we maybe, I don't know if Dr. Scholar, if we have time for maybe one question, let's maybe take one question or two questions. But for all the questions that are in the Q&A area, please know that we will answer those. And then when we send out communication post-event, we would like to we'll answer your questions, so don't worry about it. But maybe, Dr. Scholar, could we take one question?
Sure, we can do that. Let's see here. Why don't we go? We had someone who was anonymous, and because this is really good. This is about salary negotiations, ladies. How do you suggest someone go through salary negotiations, right? Because she's doing that for the first time in her life. She's almost 40 years young. She's never negotiated before. What should she do? How does she represent her worth, and how to do that, from a place of strength that all of you have shown today.
Wonderful. Would someone like to take that specifically? Maybe Monica or Tram, if you could, would one of you like to answer that?
Sure, absolutely. There's a very simple formula. Calculate what you think you're worth, and then increase that by 50%, right? Because you're always going to lowball. You're always going to lowball yourself, right? So figure out what you think it's worth, and then increase that by at least 50%. But you know, I think it's really understanding the role, really understanding what you bring to the table. And these are all the things that we talked about earlier. Being able to quantify that is going to be an essential asset in your negotiations. But you know, that's been my rule of thumb, because the worst they can say to you is no.
Right.
And come back with something else. But don't just settle. Don't ever just settle. I think as women, sometimes we have this mentality of, oh, well, just pay me what you think I'm worth. No, 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 no. Pay me what I think I'm worth plus 50%.
Oh, I love that. Or Dr. Trahan, anything you want to add to that for the person asking?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'm going to be transparent. I do have an agent, so he negotiates my salary. But regardless, I would say you have to know your worth. You have to know your worth. You should figure out what other people, if you can, are making in the industry to see, okay, where is my barometer in this? And then from there, it goes back to that hard work ethic, in that these are all the things that I can do. This is my worth. This is what I have worked so hard. And you know, you have all those examples to fall back on. And I think that, you know, from there, you know, I'm sorry, I can't give you numbers or quantify this, but I just think it goes back to doing your homework, knowing your worth. And, you know, I mean, just, yeah, exactly. The worst they could say is no, but you do want to aim high so that you can settle right at that sweet spot.
Yes. Any other comments to add, Dr. Trahan, Liz? Anything you want to add to that?
What everyone said is absolutely intact. And I believe that when you know your value, you have to know how to quantify that. And if you're an entrepreneur, I think it's important to, when you look at partnerships and building your team, you know, who you're bringing on as your VP of business development, who you're bringing on maybe as your VP of sales. These are people that could add value and help you to build those proposals out. So teamwork is important.
Wonderful. Liz, any feedback for that person asking about salary negotiation?
Just like what everybody's touched on, do your homework, do your research. What is the industry standard of a person in your field, in your position? How much are they making? And from there, you have a baseline that you can, you know, analyze and see, oh, do I have more credentials? Do I have more education? These are all, you can quantify all this stuff and be a, you know, effective negotiator in that sense, and say, listen, boss, look, I have more education than a standard person in this industry. So I think I should be making, like what Monica was saying, that and 50% plus. You know, I think most women are afraid of rejection too. So they don't want to go there, because the worst they can say is no. Again, sorry, I said dude, but yeah, the worst they can say is no. Know your worth, you know, know about yourself, you know, list everything that certifications, education that you have, because you are worthy, you have value, and you bring value to that company or whatever, that relationship. So go for it.
So I think that also everything that's been said absolutely echo, and the doing research part, I have found that a website like Glassdoor is one that's really cool, because you can see what job is paying at the minimum, at the mid, and at the high point. So you can Google anything. Like, let's say you say tomorrow, I want to be a scuba diver instructor, right? You can literally go in and it'll tell you, right? The average pay for a scuba, diving instructor in your area is this. Here's the low, here's the mid, here's the high. And I agree with Monica, go with the high, because at least you have somewhere to negotiate down to. Don't go with the low and then lowball yourself, and then you've got no room. So that's kind of our advice. Ladies, it has been my extreme pleasure and honor to have led you in this conversation today. I am so pleased that you have joined us on our panel, Crowning the Empowered Woman. And this is how I reimagine that a global sisterhood could look. So for all of you out there, I invite you to replicate this in your environment, in your corporations, in your companies, and give women the platform and the space and the place to really share their stories. I think you will find that in their stories, we are all more alike than we are dislike. So it's, it's just really something that I want you guys to just remember, that there's so many similarities between all of us. And I think once you hear people's story, you kind of go, yeah, absolutely. I can co-sign with that. So that's very important. So thank you so much. To give our closing comments right now, I would love to invite to join us Dr. Mallory Titel, who is the chair of the Education Committee and responsible for our monthly workshops. Good afternoon, or still good morning. Yeah, still good morning.
I think it's still morning. I'm not sure. Well, thank you, Joanna. Yes, as Joanna shared, I have the great pleasure of being chair of the Education Committee here at the DLA. And I want to just take a moment to recognize a few of the key people. And I'm only going to have a moment to recognize the few because so many people are behind putting these events together. And as you can see, they are well worth it. First of all, of course, I want to thank our esteemed panel. Boy, I could listen to smart, savvy women ad nauseum. Really, I think you guys are amazing. So thank you to Tram, thank you to Monica, Dr. Velma, and Liz. And of course, Joanna as our masterful facilitator. Thank you all with regard to that. I also want to take a moment to thank our board of directors and our fearless leader and co-founder, Marion Kelly, for the strategic guidance and the leadership oversight to DLA that has been provided for well over 20 years, both in spirit and in deed. And look at these faces. It's amazing the folks I have the rare opportunity to be able to work with. I'd also like to thank our education committee who is behind everything. I want to apologize. This does not represent the wealth we have on our education committee, but these are some of those heroes who sit with us. And who are responsible for these programs. Again, a great thank you towards our executive director, Joanna, as well as Tandra Richardson for helping put this amazing group and program together, for developing the content, and of course, for the moderation. And as always, behind the screens, we could not do anything without Dr. Brent Scholar for driving the technical planning. And boy, talk about not being a technical person. That's me. Well, he is the one I would always turn to, and he is the expert, absolutely. So we are very grateful for all of your combined support and just being there, which is really amazing. And we all know how important that is when we are in a spot that someone truly is there for us. I love the notion of the tarp and the bleach, and I wrote that down. I'm going back to that. So thank you for sharing that. I would also, of course, like to thank our sponsors who, again, without their support, without their amazing support, we would not be here except for them. So I want to, and I am reading this because I do want to get this right. So thank you for Tegna Foundation and Channel 12 for awarding DLA with the 2021 programming, with a 2021 programming grant, incredibly important for our work. Special thanks to Emily Mowers, Carrie Watts, and the amazing Tram, who was able to be here with us. Thank you also again to Marion Kelly, who has been amazing and a significant support to us over many, many years, from the Mayo Clinic and everyone there who provides exactly what we need in terms of being able to be here for you. And the Everybody in Fund for Change grants who also support the Uncomfortable Dialogue series that we have been able to present for the past several months back into 2020. Lastly, a thank you for the Black Philanthropy Initiatives Grant Fund and Ms. Kim Covington at the Arizona Community Foundation. I cannot say enough, and I've certainly said it enough, how we would not be here if it were not for the efforts and the support of all of you. So thank you again.
Hey, and just to talk again, we are so honored. Brent, would you tell us about what we have next? What is on the agenda for next month?
Absolutely, Joanna. Thank you, first of all, to all of our panelists. And I'm going to do a special shout out to Lady Caress and her wonderful, amazing, inspiring poem. Thank you so much for that. Also, we also have our ASL services. Sorry, I have to read this. From Equal Access Services. Stephanie and Chasity, thank you so much for being with us here again today. and all of making this accessible and available to everybody. Okay, excuse me, what's coming up? I've just put in, well, I'm trying to put into the chat, all of the links and things you need to know what's coming up. So we've added in our DLA Equity Corner, and we'll be doing that next week on April 1st at 1 p.m. Pacific time. You don't need to register for that, but we're going to continue this conversation. So panelists, if you're available, join us. But we're just going to we try to really give our audience a voice, right? And ask questions. And what have you done in the last week to help change the system, right? And make things different. So think about that and join us next week, Joanna and I at 1 p.m. In April, we're looking at April 15th for a digital playing field. How racially equitable is it? We have a registration link there. And we're going to be talking about what a lot of people call the digital divide. I like to call it digital. How do we create digital affluence, right? Let's work towards what we want. So how are we going to change that system, which of course has really been highlighted, right, this past year. And then of course, we'll have our DLA Equity Corner following that on April 29th. You can find all of this on our Facebook page or our website. So please join us there in the conversation. And finally, I got one more link. DLA is so lucky, as we just learned about all of our amazing, amazing sponsors that really help drive DLA. And if you have enjoyed today's workshop, in honor of our 20th anniversary this year, 20 years, please consider making a $20 donation or more to celebrate that anniversary. Your donations are going to help us to continue providing these vital dialogues and programs to our entire community at a complimentary rate. So we have the link for you here already. It is DLA. They are a 501c3 nonprofit. So your donations may be taxable depending on your situation. So thank you very much, everybody. And I'm going to pass it off one more time to our amazing Executive Director, Joanna Deshay.
What a wonderful, wonderful morning. And what a wonderful, wonderful way to wrap up an amazing month. Thank you so much for joining us for Uncomfortable Conversations that Ignite Change. Here at Diversity Leadership Alliance, we are determined to ensure that everyone feels empowered. And that is what our dialogue series is about. This is our community space, our safe space for you all to come and learn and listen and ultimately transform. Because at the end of the day, what you do, the action and steps that you take, is what will shift the pendulum and really change all of the systems and all of the inequities in them. So a special thank you to Monica Villalobos of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Velma Traham with ThinkZilla, Rose Liz Bacchus. I had to put grandma's name in there, Rose. Liz joining us from Hawaii. Also, thank you so much to Dr. Mallory Titel for her comments earlier. And last but definitely not least, the incomparable, amazing Tram Mai. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. And I'm a coffee girl, so I'm going to press. I'm all about the coffee. I need this peanut butter experience. So thank you all so much. Happy Women's History Month to you. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you so much and have an amazing, amazing day. Cheers.
Thank you all.